Well, it appears we're back because we now have another tornado warning. This time, this includes northern St. Louis County and the St. Louis metro area. And I will say this storm does appear a little more organized than the past ones. And this is, again, that Baldwin cell we were mentioning a few minutes ago before we cut the stream there. And of course, a minute after I do that, tornado warning gets issued. So here we are. We're covering it again as it pushes through the St. Louis region. Um, Not really expecting too much to happen with it, but again, it is a storm capable of producing a tornado, so we're going to cover it for y'all regardless, just in case something does manage to happen. That's the biggest thing is we want to be prepared in these sort of situations. So we do have a tornadic storm potentially about to move through Creve Coeur. We'll pull up the velocity for you right now. I want to draw your attention to these here. There's some gusty winds, probably in the 30 to 40 mile an hour range. This is particularly my area of concern right here is this nice little rotation couplet. Um, that's primarily where I am watching this general area right down here. So with that said, we'll be keeping an eye on that as it tracks to the northeast. And again, I believe we had this moving about 50 to 55 miles an hour. Yeah, that slowed down quite a bit. Yeah, it looks like it has slowed down quite a bit. We'll track it about 30 though. Track it through St. Louis. Clayton, you're probably 2 or 3 minutes out from getting impacted by this. Ferguson, you're probably in the 5 to 10 minute range at this point. Granite City, about 15 minutes. Downtown St. Louis, you're probably about 10 minutes. So keep an eye on this. I'm especially watching, again, this backside here. It does look like there is a little bit of a rotation signature just outside town and country. That's going to be moving northeast, just north of Clayton. We'll see if anything intensifies. With this latest scan, you can already tell a little bit more organization as far as winds, mainly outflow from this storm, just outside all of that. I'll pull it up on reflectivity and just kind of show you here that general area is where we'd be seeing maybe some lighter gusty winds in the outflow of this cell. So if you're outside of Olivet, St. John, or Clayton, just keep an eye on this. No tornado is on the ground as of now. There's not really a strong signature indicating where one might be, but we do have a couple of areas to watch for development. I would specifically watch actually this little knob here, anything that might spin up along here, and then there was a little bit better signature back here just a moment ago. So a couple of areas to watch as the storm progresses through the St. Louis area. Go ahead and pull up our debris tracker, and there's not really anything that jumps out to me. Mainly just noise on radar. There's not really any defined debris ball. Um, Outside of that, again, just give you a broader picture as we were looking at just a moment ago. Storms have largely fallen apart. This is really the last cell in the St. Louis region that's doing anything. There is a severe warning storm down towards Springfield. We'll look at just briefly. 60 miles an hour winds are the hazard with this as it pushes off towards the Springfield area. So if you're outside of Springfield, just keep an eye on this. It is moving in your general direction, but not seeing any indication of this time of a tornado threat. Everything is mainly just a squall line. So if you're out there, keep an eye on it. But as for the St. Louis region, we do still have this tornado warning in place. This is again going to be just outside of Clayton, Olivet, uh, and moving towards Overland, St. John, and Jennings in North St. Louis right now. So if you're out that way, keep an eye on this. Again, no tornado reported on the ground as of now, but we do want to watch in case a brief spin up, weak tornado pops up out of nowhere. So that's our main focus as this pushes through North St. Louis and the metro area. and even start looking out beyond this, out towards Edwardsville, Granite City, those general areas, just in case the storm does get its act together uh, by a miracle at this point and pushes out beyond the Mississippi River. So we'll wait for another scan of data to come in, should be any minute now. And with that, we'll kind of get a better idea of what this storm is going to do. Is it going to strengthen or is it going to kind of fall apart? Which my hope is that it will fall apart. Just see if we have camera. This is a camera out just south of Baldwin, um, showing some nice thunderstorm activity out there. Here, I've kind of pulled this on the screen for y'all. Yeah, this is a weather station just outside Baldwin, Manchester, just on the north side of I-44. Gives you a general idea of what's going on. Just some nice rainfall and some lightning at the moment out that way, but again, nothing too significant as far as that area goes. Bring you over to reflectivity once again, just give you an idea. Just general area of showers and thunderstorms out towards there, Eureka and beyond. And behind this system, you don't really have to worry about much of a severe threat after this. The atmosphere has stabilized quite a bit once this all moves through. So not really a whole lot to worry about in that regards. It's just figuring out what this storm, which is moving into St. John right now, just an FYI, St. John and Clayton. Just trying to figure out what that one's going to do. And again, still not really a good area of rotation to hone in on. I mean, there's maybe a weak, very, very weak little couplet over top of Frontenac right now. That's going to be moving off towards Clayton. So just keep an eye on it. So nothing that really catches my eye in the way of possible tornado. Maybe weak rotation, yes, but I'll just confirm here, it doesn't look like anything is on the ground. Still, though, we want to treat this as if we really want to treat any tornadoes warning as if a tornado is on the ground. So with that said, let's make sure that if we're in this area, that we're heading towards our safe place. I mean, it's going to be center part of your building, away from exterior walls or windows. If you can get to a basement, that'd be preferred. Just as long as you're away from exterior walls, as low down in the building as you can get. If you're in the bathroom, you can get mattress, blankets put over you. It'll help shelter you in case debris starts falling on you. Those are going to be your safest bets as far as seeking shelter. If you're in a car, do not get under any overpasses. All it does is create a hazard on the roadway behind you, especially. Leaves a lot of people out in the open as well. At the end of the day, it's just a selfish thing to do. Let's see if we have any updated scans as far as the velocity goes. Nothing yet. Pull up relative velocity, and again, just allows us to see what the storm's velocity relative to its motion is looking like. So we can get a little bit better idea if there's any rotation and just a little bit of an enhanced area in Frontenac, but that's about all that I see at this point. So that's going to be where we're watching, but it's very weak at best. So it's really nothing to really worry about at this point. It seems like the majority of this is just kind of formed this nice squall line pushing due east to northeast in the St. Louis area. Not really any damaging wind risks, not really even a gusty wind risk. It's just that brief spin-up tornado that the National Weather Service is watching. Now, I'm pretty sure they're going to remove this warning here in just a moment because there's not any area of rotation that I'm watching too hard at this point. Yeah, we'll zoom out real quick, give you a big picture of what's going on. We did have some storms earlier today push into western and northern Missouri and this main system here that's been pushing across the state along the I-44 corridor. There's been one confirmed tornado in Missouri today outside of Clinton. Actually, it went through the town of Clinton, Missouri. That was a number of hours ago, caused some damage there, so keep that town in your prayers tonight, anybody who may have been impacted by that. But our focus again for the moment is this squall line that's pushing through St. Louis right now. And again, there's no confirmed tornado, there's no debris being lifted aloft, there's not really even a wind risk with this. There was a little bit of a rotation signature out towards the Baldwin area about 15 minutes ago that the National Weather Service was watching. So as with any tornado warning, we just want to keep our eyes on this system as it pushes through, make sure no weak, brief tornadoes pop up. That is our biggest concern right now. And it doesn't look like it's really even a concern at this point. And there's no enhanced area of rotation on radar at this point. It's just along the squall lines where we could see potential of a brief spin up, but even then, there's nothing really pointing at it at the moment. So I'd expect the National Weather Service to remove this warning here in just a couple more minutes. Again, though, just want to keep an eye on it in case something does pop up. You'll notice on the camera over here, pretty nice bit of rain falling just outside Baldwin, so if you're on the roads out there, just bear in mind conditions are probably a little slick and visibility's minimal at this point, so be safe if you're out driving tonight. But you don't have to worry about anything in the way of hail or really damaging winds at this point. It's just that heavy rain. Which brings me to another deal. Flash flooding for areas that do see quite a bit of this heavy rainfall could be a risk as well. So keep an eye on that if you're driving through some low-level areas. You might see a little bit of ponding on the roads. Just take it slow, try to avoid any hydroplaning. And if there is a lot of water crossing over the roads, don't drive through it. That's just an unwanted risk at this point. If nothing else, you're going to get your car all wet. Just because you think the water is only a few inches deep doesn't mean it actually is. Roads can wash out. So while you think it's a couple inches deep, you might be driving into a 6-foot crater. So keep that in mind if you're driving through water in the future. We don't want to see anybody drowning. That is the saying. Turn around, don't drown. So real quick, as this is pushing into the St. Louis metro area, not really anything in the way of rotation still. I'm still waiting on an update. Should be getting an updated scan any second now. Yeah, at this point, if there were any rotation, it would probably be either down here towards the Kirkwood area, that's the only real potential area, or maybe back here in Clayton somewhere. But again, there's not really a defined area to watch on this, so the risk of anything happening at this time, I'd say, is very minimal. I see you, Christian. How's it going? Uh, we'll give it a couple more minutes, wait for the warning to expire, which I'm expecting it will here in just a little bit. But in the meantime, just make sure nothing's going on. I did get an update on the velocity. There's nothing at all to watch. So we'll just wait for that warning to expire, and then we'll go off the air once again. We'll just take a look down the line real quick just to make sure there's not anywhere else to watch for potential developments. And even on this southern end of the line, which is where I'd be watching more so at this point, there's not a whole lot going on there. Just broken showers and thunderstorms at this point. Still has it radar indicated. We'll see if we get any updates. Seems like our velocity is lagging a little bit behind the reflectivity as far as radar updates go. This still is an active tornado warning. If you're in town and country, Baldwin, Chesterfield, I'd say Maryland Heights, St. Anne, even Clayton at this point, I'd say you're pretty much in the clear. The leading edge of this is going to be moving into the St. Louis metro at this point. So St. Louis, remain in your safe place for now. Again, the risk is minimal of anything popping up, but we still want to treat it as if a tornado could be on the ground. So remain in your safe shelter. Shout out anybody at SLU tonight. I know we got a couple people out there, and got a couple out there and at Maryville. All news areas. So if you're out there and you're watching, just know at this point the risk is pretty much none. But we're gonna wait and see if we can get an update. Geez, can I buy a velocity update? Can I buy a valve, folks? All right. At this point, our risk has greatly reduced. We'll just let this warning expire, I'd say. Which it should any second now. We'll take a look down near Springfield, just because that's the only active storm really going at this point. We do have some 60-mile-an-hour winds possible along this leading edge, so if you're out in the Springfield area of Missouri, or just along I-44 in that general region, keep an eye on this. It is going to be moving into the area. We'll go ahead and pull up velocity for you. And you can see it's not a huge risk as it was earlier, but a couple of stronger gusts in this particular region as the storm moves east. So just keep an eye on that if you're out and about. It does look like it had a much better looking signature. You can see a couple of those better velocity signatures out towards Golden City and Greenfield earlier on, but as it's moved east, it's lost a lot of its juice to it. So not too much of a worry, but do keep an eye on it, Springfield, in case it decides to re-intensify over the next couple of next hour or so. We'll take a look at this flash flood warning too. Again, flash flooding has been a risk for today with some of those areas, and you'll see between 2 and 3 inches of rain have fallen across this area just north of Joplin. I'm expecting about the same here north of Springfield, 1 to 2 inches. So if you do happen to be in any of these areas where we're seeing a lot of these heavier showers move through, just keep an eye in case you run through any low-lying areas and there's ponding. You don't want to hydroplane off the road, So take it slow, take it easy, and watch the visibility when you're in some of these heavier precip areas. Um, we'll let this update real quick, but again, I'm sure this warning's about to expire. Sup, Mr. Potato Man? Glad to have you in. We're just tracking tornado warning as it pushes through the St. Louis area and the St. Louis metro. So not a whole lot to watch. It's a pretty weak storm at this point, but we'll treat it as if there were a tornado on the ground. Make sure we're heading to our safe space. But I'd say at this point the risk is very minimal, if none. Just some heavy rain and a good old storm. Not even a whole lot of lightning on this. It just tells you how stabilized the atmosphere has become. Everything's kind of just falling apart, which is a good thing. We do want to see that severe risk diminish as we go into the overnight hours. There was a lot of worry earlier on that there'd be a bigger squall line push across the state that would continue on up to probably midnight or so as it crossed over the Mississippi River, but it does seem like that risk has diminished and it actually pushed a lot earlier, which again, it's a good thing. Mitigates the potential for late night activity, which is something we do want to avoid. You two are funny. Yeah, if you're out in Kansas, Mr. Aiden, if you're watching these storms on Friday, we'll go ahead and pull up the day 3 convective risk just to give you an idea of what's going on. There is a pretty nice risk for portions of eastern Kansas all the way up into Wisconsin, especially across western Missouri. So if you're out in the Como area, Kansas City, almost Manhattan. Manhattan might catch the leading edge of some of this stuff depending on where it develops. But if you're out in those areas, just keep an eye on things. Friday could be a fairly active day for severe weather. And we'll have a couple of updates on Instagram and here on the YouTube as well. Just ended up getting a video capture card, so might be a little bit of green screen activity if we can get it all set up. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll keep an eye on it. Focus back in on St. Louis just real quick. I do want to make sure we're getting everything, and it does look like we do have a couple of gustier winds along this leading edge pushing through the metro area right now. Clayton, you're in the clear as far as this tornado risk goes. We're just going to keep an eye on us just in case any area decides to spin up a little bit more. But again, the storm's weakening. It's more so outflow dominant at this point. Not really watching too much in the way of rotation anywhere. Yeah. Actually, we'll watch this area outside Arnold briefly. If you're paying attention, you notice just a nice little inflow notch right here. Here, point that out a little bit better. Which could be an indicator we are getting some warm, moist air flowing into this cell in particular. It's very small, it's very minimal, but there is a little bit of a notch here. So we'll watch that. Uh, National Weather Service has been pretty uh, pretty much on the trigger this evening as far as tornado warnings go, so it wouldn't surprise me if it does get a little stronger, that they might warn it as it pushes off into Illinois, which will actually track all of this out for you timing wise. Over the next few minutes. Oh, well, it'd be nice if it didn't do that. Okay, I'm not sure what this thing is doing. Technology, right? Ha ha ha. There we go. So, Arnold, you're probably going to be getting it here in just a few minutes. It'll probably cross over the Mississippi River sometime in the next 10 minutes or so. Pretty much this entire line is our area to watch. Edwardsville, you're probably in 28 minutes to a half hour at this point. So that's a general timing. Again, some stronger wind gusts in St. Louis at the moment. I'm expecting this tornado warning to dissipate here in just a couple of minutes. Yeah, tell Boris to get on. It's the greatest. Um, it's a great thing for a streamer or a content creator to see his followers. Just it's a great honor to see them watching as they're eating a meal or they're on the pooper. Just fun. It's a great privilege, one might say. But out here, Melville, starting to keep an eye on this cell just north of Arnold in case it decides it gets to act together. But given this little bit of convection out ahead of it, it's probably going to help to stabilize the atmosphere just enough to keep anything from happening on that cell. So just an FYI. But as for St. Louis goes, really just watching stronger wind gusts at this point. As soon as this warning wraps up, we're probably going to go off the air. I don't imagine that this pans out to be much out towards Arnold. But if it does, we'll remain on the air to cover it. Alright, we do have a new frame. A little bit of interesting structure out towards St. Louis, actually. Again, as we were talking about a minute ago with that Alton cell, just a potential little inflow notch here right in downtown St. Louis, just a couple of blocks south of SLU. So again, if you're out there, keep an eye on it. It is still an active tornado warning. We'll see if we get an update on velocity here in a second. That would be an area to watch if it does end up having rotation, and that would track out. Yeah, actually, that does look like it might have a weak signature on radar just about here. So this is really what we're tracking tonight, is these brief little weak spin-ups. It's not going to be an obvious area to watch. Yeah, at this point, I think SLU is pretty much into clear. It's moved just past them at this point. They are getting some pretty heavy precipitation right now, as soon as that reflectivity updates. But really, it's going to be downtown St. Louis to watch for this. I don't really have any cameras to pull up for y'all, otherwise I'd say we could watch that, but yeah, Maggie too. Well, if you know anybody out towards Collinsville, Fairview Heights, O'Halloran, and even Belleville, I'd say give them a ring or say, hey, just keep an eye on it. And there we go. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning that was just issued with a tornado possible tag for areas from DeSoto all the way up to the St. Louis Metro, all the way out to Belleville. That's going to be for 60-mile-an-hour winds and has that tornado possible tag on it. So that is a hazard we'll be watching over the next probably hour or so, 44 minutes. Okay. I'm curious to see what happens with this cell up in the St. Louis Metro. Really seems to have gotten its act together in the last two scans, roughly 10 minutes. Again, we're just watching at this point to see if it continues to strengthen. My guess is it's going to weaken. We're seeing these two segments here merge, and as they do, it's probably going to kill off any inflow to this cell. Not that there's too much at this point anyhow, but something to watch. We'll pull up velocity again. You can see just a couple of stronger wind gusts along this leading edge, not too much down south. There is indication it may start to strengthen a little bit, but really watching from pretty much Arnold all the way up into the St. Louis Metro for any stronger winds. And we'll get our debris tracker up, and I'm not really seeing anything that would indicate debris ball. So it's good to see that nothing is on the ground with this. All right, we do have an update. There's nothing really that catches my eye. Again, that little inflow notch is still present on this St. Louis cell, which means we might have to watch for some rotation there. We'll go ahead and pull up velocity, see when that updates. But at this point, again, any risk of something developing at this point is fairly nil, but we're going to track it anyhow. Yeah, and at this point it looks like everything is fairly linear. With that said, if you're in SLU, so Brandon, Maggie, I know we were talking about you. Looks like you're all going to be in the clear, as I guess actually almost entire portion of the line that's in Missouri is going to be in the clear. However, if you're out towards Waterloo, Illinois, Belleville, O'Fallon, Collinsville, even Edwardsville, just keep an eye on this line of storms as it pushes off towards you. Watch for any brief spin ups. I do see that we do have a little bit of a kink in the line here, so we'll keep an eye on that, but not really any structure reflectivity wise to support it. Most everything is weakened substantially. See you, Christian. It was nice having you on. And we're about to see this warning expire for St. Louis as well. See you, Mr. Aiden. We'll go ahead and pull up a couple of forecast models real quick just to track this thing out over the next few hours. That is, if we can get a decent visualization of what's going on, which doesn't look like that's going to provide it. Maybe. We might get a visualization. This is kind of close, but as you can see, storms track off to the east in the overnight hours. Maybe a limited risk of anything down south towards Cape Girardeau, Farmington, Poplar Bluff. If anything, I'd say just a couple of wind gusts out that way, but nothing too much going on. The big risk that I'm watching, though, is, of course, well, we do have a small severe potential tomorrow if storms can develop, but chances of that are pretty much nil. Big thing I'm watching is on Friday, for anybody who's curious or out here, Manhattan. Based on this forecast model, you're in the clear pretty much, but anywhere from northern Oklahoma and eastern Kansas all the way out to Illinois, Wisconsin, into Iowa, just an area of storms to watch. We'll see a nice line of storms and even a couple of supercells across northern Illinois and into southern Iowa that could develop. And I'd even watch one or two in Missouri as well, just in case we do have some convection kickoff there. But the main risk is going to be this large line of storms that pushes across the state into the overnight hours. That'll be our big risk. And with it, we do have a risk of some strong tornadoes, large hail, and some damaging wind gusts as well. But that's Friday. Today is Wednesday, so we'll focus in on today's threat once again, just see where things lie. Storm line has pretty much moved across the Mississippi River at this point. So Missouri, I would say you're pretty much entirely in the clear at this point. But for anybody who is in Illinois, still not seeing anything concerning. It's just a squall line at this point, folks. We'll take a peek down into Arkansas. I know we were seeing a couple of storms down here. And this is more so the kind of structure I'm looking for. These nice little hook echoes and inflow notches all along this line here, just west of Fayetteville, Arkansas. Actually, Fort Smith, excuse me. We'll see. Doesn't look like anything's confirmed on the ground with them. We'll just pull up radar just to see if we do have any debris. And it doesn't look like we have any debris signatures with these cells, but we can see actually some fairly decent rotation couplets down here in Arkansas. So if you're anywhere west of Fort Smith, all the way out kind of towards Little Rock, keep an eye on this. You do have active tornado warnings on it. If we got any family out there for anybody watching, just let them know. I know I've got family out towards North Little Rock, so I'll be letting them know here in a little bit. And as for the tornado warning for St. Louis, it has been removed. It has been allowed to expire. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and go off the air for the night. Again, we'll be watching a storm risk on Friday. If it warrants it, I will go live to cover it if it ends up going in an area like Columbia or Kansas City, any bigger areas like that, or places I know folks will be watching. So if we do see that bigger risk develop, for anybody who is watching, just a heads up, we might be live there. But until next time, I am Weatherman Fife. And if you're in St. Louis and east, Springfield, Missouri, or all the way down here in Arkansas, keep an eye on these storms for the rest of the night. And I hope you have a safe rest of your evening